Hey y'all, I'm Jennifer with Spark Flash Fiction, and tonight we are talking to Megan Parmerter about her story and our latest issue called Healer's Heart. So I'm going to start real quick by introducing her. Despite creating worlds and characters for years, Christian fantasy writer Megan Parmerter is just beginning her journey as an author. She is a member of ACFW and Christian Mommy Writers, and she is pursuing publication of her first novel, an allegorical coming-of-age, coming-to-faith story. She is also plotting out a fantasy series to take place in her newly crafted world of Novenia. She squeezes writing into a schedule filled with loving on her husband and kids, taking care of a growing homestead, and trying any and every crafting thing she can get her hands on. So let's start off, Megan, by talking about your story. What was the inspiration behind Healer's Heart?
Well, the inspiration came from, as you mentioned, I have a fantasy series that I'm just getting into the world building phase, and I have been, in an effort to brainstorm and build that world and the characters, I've been writing these little vignettes. And some of the ladies in the Christian Mommy Writers happened to mention that you guys had submissions open for Flash Fiction. I was not familiar with Spark at the time, and I went and looked and I said, oh, these are all romance. I don't typically read romance or write romance, but you know what? This is a great opportunity to stretch myself. And I struggled for a bit coming up with something, but then I reached out to Laurie, who's on your staff, and said, can I put it in a fantasy setting? Would that be okay? And she said, yeah, sure. And so I used it as an opportunity to set things in the world that I'm building. And these two characters, three characters really that I had in the story, may have their backgrounds grow. And it was an exercise for me. It was a fun exercise. It was challenging because I don't write romance or flash fiction typically. So yeah, I was just playing around with some of the ideas I've had in my brain already in this world that I'm setting. And I just pictured a meeting of two people who grew up together and haven't seen each other because of this war-torn chaos, because fantasy worlds always seem to have war-torn chaos. And just how they would react to seeing each other after a very long time. So, yeah.
I love that because we're always telling people that flash fiction is a great way to experiment and try new things, and also dig to some of those side characters that you normally wouldn't touch in your series because you don't have time for them on the page. So I love that.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you don't really write or read romance. The next question may be a little silly, but do you have a favorite subgenre of romance?
Because I don't read much romance, and I'm learning, really this year, I realized how popular romance is, just in general in the reading community, the writing community. And I figured, I'm like, you know what, I should start reading some in order to, because inevitably with a large cast of characters that I'm hoping to put together, I know that at least two of them will have a relationship, and I should learn how to write that well. And I think, though, were I to go to the library with that in mind and wanting to read something to learn about the genre, I would choose, I'm sure, fantasy or historical. I can't get into contemporary all that well, but those two, I enjoy the escapism of writing. So I want to be transported to a different world, be it a fantasy world or just a historical look at our own world. And I have huge respect for both genres of writers, because you're either building an entirely new world or you're doing a boatload of research in order to make the historical work. So I think probably were I to choose, and I will dabble, I will read a little bit if anybody has recommendations. I am always up for trying new authors and learning from them. So that's all. Yeah, so I'm learning. I'm new to it, I guess would be the answer.
I find it very exciting, though, that you were going to start trying it.
Yeah.
Especially since I recently learned this from Book Talk, but apparently, like romantic fantasy, they like to call it romantasy. Like, they have a very special name for it. And I didn't realize that because I don't typically read fantasy. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Well, since some of the romance questions don't necessarily apply, why don't I ask you, how did you get started on your writing journey to begin with?
Oh gosh. I mean, it sounds cliche, but as far back as I can remember, I've been a voracious reader.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally out of that came just little stories at first, I would say. And then I would say when I was probably tail end of middle school into high school, I got more serious about um, crafting characters and building these big stories, which I go back and read that now and go, oh, some of the stuff that I wrote back then. But there still are characters in there that I love, and maybe I'll revive them and refresh them. And I had intentions back in high school to take what I had written and try to get it traditionally published. And I had actually queried a few different people. And then got kind of busy with life, in my early 20s. But still, since I remember writing a goal list when I was in fifth grade or fourth grade. And one of the goals on the list at the top was write a book. And that's never really faded. And I would love, love, love to be able to walk into a bookstore someday and see my book on the shelf with my name on it. And honestly, also as a Christian, I've had a particular story put on my heart that God has told me he wants me to write. It's not what I wanted to write at first, but that's the path that I'm being led on right now. And so that's the allegorical coming to faith story that you mentioned earlier. And I'm about a third of the way through the third draft, cleaning it up. Editing is rough. It is so rough. But that's honestly why the flash fiction with you guys was such a great exercise, because it's helping me to tighten up those editing skills, which is really, really essential.
Yeah, I have to say it's much easier to edit a 1,000-word story than it is an 80,000-word story.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah. I'm sitting at about 91,000 words right now. And I'm I need to pull that back.
I've heard fantasy writers have usually longer words.
Longer
words, but longer books.
Longer words. Just big words. Automatopoeia, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, things like that. I don't know. You read some fantasy names out there. I don't know how to pronounce that or spell it or
I remember when I was a teenager and I read Twilight, and I read Carlisle as Carl Izzle, and it wasn't until the movies came out that I realized it was actually Carlisle, and I was like, oh
yeah. There have been more than a few times where I've read a book, I think, and this isn't just character names, this is just words in general. Like I remember saying macabre to my dad one time. He's like, it's macabre. I'm like, but I read them, but I don't say them out loud. And unless I go, that's why Google and just typing in the definition of word and then listening to the pronunciation is great, because I know that I botch it plenty of times.
Mm-hmm. I did the same with macabre and facade. I thought it was facade.
Oh, okay.
Corrected me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry."
Oh, sorry. I know what it means. I just don't know how to say it.
No. Well, what fantasy books have you enjoyed that you feel like has impacted your writing style?
Most certainly, the first series that comes to mind, and I know it's a favorite of many people, would be C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia. Yes. Yeah. Very heavily influential. Certainly, the allegory that he has in his stories is bleeding into the allegory that I'm trying to present in the book that I'm writing, which working title right now is just 53. Maybe it'll change. But C.S. Lewis most certainly has been very influential. I loved when I was in middle school, the Redwall series by Brian Jakes. He's a Scottish author. I mean, that was the sort of book I remember my parents taking me to the bookstore and just beeline for where his stuff was on the shelf. Like, is the new one out? I loved the stakes and the fact that the good guys could lose in those kind of books. Love those. And of course, Lord of the Rings is a big influential fantasy series. And I've got a lot I know I need to read. I have friends who holler at me because I've never read any of Brandon Sanderson's stuff and things like that. But yeah, I love fantasy series. And just again, it's that escapism. It's traveling somewhere different and new that I love. So hoping to create that with my own stories.
Now, I want to hear a little bit more about your fantasy world of Novenia. Can you tell me a little bit about that and give me a sneak peek?
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot more to build, but the idea initially came from one thing any of my friends will tell you, my nerdy friends especially. Anytime I have played any sort of tabletop game or computer game where you have the option to be a healer, I play a healer. That's what I do. And I love that idea of people being to put their hands on somebody and heal someone. So, kind of how this idea started boiling up and everything was okay, again, going back to the fact that I'm a Christian, it ties into this and everything. What if some of those spiritual gifts that we see, like healing and prophesying and all these different things, how would that look in a fantasy setting? How would a healer of, I call God in my stories the guide. How would a healer of the guide look? What would that, and that's the main character of the healer's heart that I have in there is a healer of the guide, and the way that she heals people is a big part of the story. But yeah, I was trying to think of how those would manifest, and to some people they would look like magical powers, but yeah, that's kind of my jumping off point, and I'm trying to build a couple of characters. I have a main healer named Iriana that I'm going to be building up, and you're going to be walking with her through most of her journey, and it'll be big epic stakes in the world falling apart and all that kind of good stuff that fantasy stories are known for. But that's honestly about as far as I've gotten, because I have been so focused on my current work that I actually got my writing journal right here. And as I have little snippets of ideas, I'm jotting down stuff. And I've got maps that I'm drawing and bad guys that I'm starting to sketch out and everything like that, because you can't have a good story without a good villain. So, yeah. So I'm hoping to post more on my social media, my Facebook and my Instagram as I go along with my little doodles and my snippets and things to go like, I'm working on it, guys, and it's gonna come to life. And I'm very excited to get there, but the focus has been the allegorical stuff right now.
I love that. That sounds really interesting.
Thanks.
All right. Well, how do you squeeze your writing into a very busy schedule?
Yes, it is a busy schedule, but the thing that I've learned is that, first of all of us are busy.
Yeah.
And you can't use that as an excuse. I certainly have plenty of times. I'm so busy. Okay, everybody's busy. You have to decide to make your writing a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all of this while at the same time struggle with it. Just because of real life,
Mm-hmm.
working, I have a spouse, I have children, we have a small homestead with animals we got to take care of. Life is busy. But if I make an honest assessment of my day, how much time do I spend on my phone that I could spend reading and or writing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, be willing to put your phone down. It's okay. The world won't end. You can quit doom scrolling. You have to have that self-control and discipline, two things that I lack big time. But I am working on, and kind of hand in hand with that is having some kind of, the writing community is huge. Being involved in a writing community, I have been blessed to be pulled into the Christian Mommy Writers this year. It is fantastic. And part of what's so good about that is the accountability. Because I can give myself a deadline. I can say by such and such date, I'm going to have, 10,000 words written. But it's very easy to not listen to myself about those. But if I tell someone else, hey, you need to check in with me, or I will update you on when I'm going to have these words done. Mm-hmm. Now you're accountable to somebody. That, even if it's not a person who writes, just someone who knows how important it is to you, holding you accountable to that deadline. So, yeah, put your phone away, make it a priority. Pick a time of day that you dedicate to it, and have someone, one person or a team, just have, be the ones who nag you. Hey, how's the writing coming?
Well, what time of day do you tend to write? Are you more of like an early morning writer or a late evening writer?
I, by nature, am a night owl. However, I am attempting, and at the beginning of the summer, I was doing fantastic at waking up early. I try to wake up early, take a little bit of time to do some Bible reading, and then from there dive into either brainstorming in my journal or actually editing. Even if it's, the big thing is not to beat myself up about how little I may get done even in a half an hour. Some mornings you might wake up energized, other mornings you're going to be sluggish and tired. But I have found, just with my family and work schedule, it would be best if I would get myself up early in the morning.
I have to admire you for that, because I'm a night owl and I've tried the whole early morning thing and my brain is like mush.
I tell you, the last time, I want to say 2 years ago, that I did NaNoWriMo and I hit the deadline, I was up, oh boy, how late was I up? It was something like 4 a.m, just all night long, making a big push towards the end. And I think I had 1,000 or so words left in the last chapter. And I said, I'll get it done. It was the 30th of the month. And I said, I'll get it done when I get home from work. And I'm like, you know what? I will be late to work. I'm going to sit down and do it right now so that I could actually go to bed at a reasonable hour that night.
Wow. I admire, there's these writers who are part of the 540 writers community on Facebook. Okay. And they do write-ins at 5:40 in the morning, hence why they're called the 540ers. And I'm just like, I have told myself I'm going to join them. That hasn't happened, but
I shoot for 6:30. I haven't in the past couple of weeks. I've been extremely tired of late, but that's just been life happening recently. That's had me extra exhausted, but I am hoping to get back to that early morning routine. It is beneficial if you can stick to it. That's the hard part.
Yeah. What is the best piece of writing advice that you've gotten since you started joining that Mommy's Writer group?
Since I joined them, I was going to say at first the best piece of writing advice was to join a community. And in the first place, because I got that, there was a gentleman at our library who put on a small talk for people, and that was his biggest piece of advice, was join a writing community. And I love that I've been pulled into one. It is so beneficial. The best thing, well, honestly, part of the best thing about the writers group has been the fact that I have a group of ladies who keep saying, don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. It's okay to go slow. So long as you keep moving forward, that's the important thing. And that's been very encouraging to see that there's other women who, they're like, hey, yeah, we get it. Some days you have a great day, you're cranking out thousands of words. Other days it might be 200, might be nothing, and that's okay. And I would say, I would just say that the greatest benefit of that too would be brainstorming. Don't be afraid to brainstorm with other writers. Yes, it would be good to speak to people who aren't writers, but writers especially. Just any crazy idea you have in your head, don't be afraid to throw it out there. Throw out all of your ideas and bounce it off of other writers. And I have found that so beneficial, to take that time, and don't be embarrassed by it. Whatever idea you have in your head, because I've had a couple that I'm like, this sounds corny, this sounds goofy. No, throw it out there. Don't be afraid to share it. Other writers will understand because they've had their own goofy, corny ideas, but they will help you work the kinks out and find like the gold that's there. And it's so good to have brainstorming in a community.
You know what I love is I throw out an idea that I think is absolutely crazy, and then another writer is like, well, what if you took that and you did this? And then all of a sudden it's like gold, and you're like, oh yes.
Yeah, I've had a couple moments like that this year where I was trying to, it was just a spot in a chapter that I couldn't get past, and I started talking to the ladies, and one of them said, well, what if he was actually this? I was like, oh, light bulb. Yes, that's it. And, wrote down notes frantically as ideas suddenly started pouring in. So it's so good to have people to talk to about that stuff.
Really is. I'm glad though that you brought up the community, because I agree that that's the best thing any writer can do is find
Absolutely. I
some community.
love the fact that I've got a group of ladies now who, the benefit of Christian mommy writers is we're all Christians. We're all moms. So we talk about our kids and how they're either wonderful that day or just driving us crazy. And then the writing stuff. And we're all in different stages of the writing life. And some of us, like me, are pretty new to the game and don't know squat. I am finding out how much I don't know. And then we've got ladies there who are, they've been editing for years, like professional editors, and other ladies who've been indie published, traditionally published, who just focus on marketing. Wonderful resource. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. All right. Well, before we leave, Megan, tell us the best place. You mentioned we can follow you on Instagram. Is there anywhere else that we can keep in touch with you and see what you're doing?
At the moment, just Instagram and Facebook. And I am working with my much more technically talented brothers to bring a blog to life, because I can do the writing part. Beyond that, I'm learning. I'm struggling. But I do intend on having a blog in the near future, probably with the first of the year, so that I can talk to people more and let them know a little bit more about my writing style and what to expect with my allegorical novel 53 and with the world of Novenia as I build it up. So, yeah.
That's exciting. I wish I was artistically talented where I could do like maps and stuff, because I see fantasy writers do that a lot, or they'll like do a character sketch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got doodles of maps. I've got doodles of characters. I've got, actually, now that you mention it, and I've got my thing right here, this is for my allegorical novel. It's just a doodle.
That's a doodle?
That's a doodle in my journal that I was just brainstorming. So you've got forces of good and evil and stuff going on. So like you said at the beginning, anything crafty, if I can get my hands on it, I just love creating. So whether that's writing stories, drawing, sewing, crocheting, knitting, all that stuff. Which means I have way too much craft materials in my home. but yeah, so, and there'll be the doodles included in everything. If you guys follow me on Instagram and Facebook, then you'll see my doodling from time to time, and just as I'm trying to work out the ideas in my head. So yeah, that's where you can find me for now.
That is awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Megan, for joining us, and thank you everyone for watching, whether you're watching the replay or you're watching live. I will do my best to tag her in the comments so that you can go follow her on Facebook, and also to put her Instagram handle so that you can go find her there as well. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. And if you feel so inclined, drop a few romantasy suggestions in the comments for Megan. I can't give any because I don't read enough. And unfortunately, Sherry's not here to give me some wisdom. So anyways, y'all have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right.